Now, after getting into all these various schools, I launched Crimson Education back in 2013, initially to guide New Zealand students into the world's best universities. But it's been a wild ride over the last 8 years. We've been able to build our organization Crimson all over the world, and now we're the leading provider of admissions guidance to help ambitious students like you guys into the world's best universities from countries like Thailand, Korea, South Africa, Brazil, New Zealand, Australia, and even the US and China as well. Now, after academics, you want to think about extracurriculars. And I was really impressed to see you guys, in the incredible forum that's been created through this international youth law event. It's a really fantastic example of one of the key categories of, your candidates at top schools called entrepreneurial leadership, where you go ahead and you play a leadership role in creating your own club or initiative and inspiring others.
First off, as you were thinking about studying law and perhaps pursuing a career in the law, you'd better like to study and to read everything for the rest of your professional lives. In other words, dedicated, nonstop, vicarious education. The job of a lawyer, in its simplest terms, is to solve your client's problems. Not as easy as it sounds. The job of a lawyer is to solve your client's problems. Such problems and challenges are those caused by humans or humanity, by human foibles, by governments, by courts, by animals, by nature, and more often than not, by the clients themselves. A key admonition here is to know and to remember who your client is versus who is not your client. Don't get them mixed up. Too many people do. I could say I meet most of the qualifications, but I won't say that. First off, you got to admit your mistakes. You have to have concern, you have to have courage, you have to be courteous, you have to be determined, you have to have dignity. You must at all times be ethical and be fair, be honest, have honor, humility, and don't forget a sense of humor. How do you look so good for an age, 84 years of age? Thank you. Thank you. Well, one of it is genes. My mother lived to 86, and she had heart problems. Her sister lived to be 106. One of my father's brothers lived to be 101. So there's some genes in there that help. Another, I have a young wife. That helps. She keeps me young. Oh, and by the way, the basic rule in marriage for men is, what's the rule?
Yes.
Do everything your wife tells you to do.
So the chamber is where all the barristers work. So they would have to do a pupillage, and for solicitors, we do the legal practice course, and then we'll do 2 years training, and we call it a training contract. So you get a training contract with a law firm, and you would then work with that law firm for 2 years as a trainee solicitor. And then after completion of those 2 years, you'd be qualified. One of the first things I'd say to you is remain focused. Create a path or a plan in your head as to how you need to get to, or what you need to do to get to where you want to get to. Have that plan and stay focused. There will be lots of things changing around you. There will be lots of changes in yourself. But despite what's happening, stay focused on that plan and always have that end goal or end game in mind and work towards that.
So whether it's in arts, writing, business, think of ways that you can pursue those interests, because then it'll also reflect on the leadership experience and potential that'll be on like your resume or CV when you apply. And you'll just build a lot of good life experiences that can make you a more competitive candidate. For gaining confidence, I think it really is just like putting yourself in situations that are uncomfortable. Like I was so afraid to go to see professors or talk with them, but the more I did it, the easier it became. And sometimes it was just like, my heart was racing, like I was like so scared to go into the room. So just practice putting yourself in situations, and eventually it just becomes more natural. It's kind of like a fake it till you make it sort of situation. Even though it feels uncomfortable, you just kind of have to keep going.
Basically, I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 7 years old. There was no other field for me. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. There was nothing else besides being a lawyer. As much as my friends were actors and chartered accountants, it never interested me. I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer, and then everything just rubber stamped that for me as on my journey while I was studying.
With me, I was told by mostly my neighbors that you should be a lawyer. You should be a lawyer when I was growing up. I didn't know, because I grew up in a deep rural village, so I didn't know what does certain professions do except social workers, teachers, and others, which were people that were living it. So my neighbors used to say, you should be a lawyer. You should be a lawyer. So that's when I started to investigate, what is this law? What is a lawyer? What do they do? Everything. Then I ended up joining law, and I'm still here.
So it's a long, hard road. So make sure it's what you love.
I belong to the other class of students where, I don't need to be the top of the class. I don't need to get the first class honors. I just need to get something decent, and to that end, I then plan my time accordingly to fit in other activities which makes the university experience fun. And actually, the university experience can be very fun, and that was actually one of the best time of my life. So you need to personally go and think about what you really want and what you need to do to get that. To that end, making friends and making lasting relationships in your law school life is actually very important, okay? Because they don't just act as a form of support.
The way I ensure that it doesn't stop me is by knowing when I need to relax or to take some time off. And this, I think, is so applicable to mental health, any physical health conditions. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself and to help you achieve your goals is to know when to stop. Law is tough, but it is so important to do the things you enjoy and to stay happy with your hobbies, because whilst law is a career that takes up a lot of your time and is hard work, you are more than your job and you're more than your grades, and it's so important to make space and time for the things you love. A lot of law firms are talking a lot at the moment about how they have these great diversity and inclusion schemes, and they'll be talking about making reasonable adjustments for people with mental illness, and lots of senior lawyers at all these firms are coming out and saying, I've actually struggled with depression for 10 years. And all these big shot lawyers are coming out and talking about mental health, and the conversation is shifting and it's being destigmatized. And so it's never going to hold you back. Like, no one's not going to hire you because you've got, say, anxiety. They're not going to choose someone who hasn't got anxiety over someone with anxiety, because that's not fair and that's not how hiring works.
And with that, the 2021 International Youth Law Conference comes to an end. We would like to deeply thank everyone who has participated in this conference at any point during these past 2 days. It meant a lot for us organizing and attending these events, and we hope it meant as much to you participating as well.
We would also like to thank all of our speakers again, and thanks to all of you who participated. Crimson Education for sponsoring this conference, as well as to our entire IYLC leadership team who ultimately made this conference possible. Thank you all again, and we hope to see you soon.